Captain Elias Ward stood on the grand platform of the intergalactic arena, the crowd of thousands roaring around him. Humanity had done it. They had won their first major victory in the arena games, a contest fought by entire civilizations for resources, prestige, and survival. It had taken years of preparation, strategy, and sacrifices, but now the humans stood tall among the stars. As tradition demanded, the victorious commander was allowed to choose a living prize from the captured enemy. It could be a warrior, a scientist, a living weapon, anything to bring home as a symbol of victory or to learn from. The other alien races watched closely, curious about what this new young species would choose. Elias walked slowly across the prisoner cages. Behind the energy barriers stood dozens of strange beings. The reptilian core, tall and armored with scales that shimmered like steel, stood silently with cold yellow eyes. The insectoid Rin clicked their mandibles in frustration, their sharp legs rattling against the floor. A group of glowing Thal, tall and beautiful like living statues of light, stood proudly even in defeat. The crew whispered among themselves, pointing at different aliens. The core warrior could be useful, one officer murmured. Or maybe a Rin strategist. Their hive-mind knowledge could give us an edge. But Elias did not stop at any of them. He kept walking until he reached the last cage, a small one hidden in the shadows. Inside sat a single creature unlike the rest. She was ugly. Her skin was rough and cracked like dry earth. Her arms were too long for her body, ending in spindly fingers. Her posture was crooked, her head tilted slightly to one side. Her face looked as if it had been carved in haste, uneven, almost wrong. And yet her eyes were the most unsettling thing Elias had ever seen. They were calm, too calm, as if she was the only one in the room who was not afraid. The other prisoners refused to look at her. Some even stepped back in fear when Elias approached the cage. That reaction made him pause. He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Rhea. "Who is she?" he asked quietly. Rhea checked her data tablet and frowned. Name recorded as Vern, species classified. The arena records say nothing except warning protocols. No combat ranking, no physical threat level, no further data. Elias stared at the small, crooked figure. Everything about this choice felt wrong. A part of him wanted to turn away, to choose something powerful and impressive to show the galaxy that humanity was strong. That would have been the smart choice. But another part of him, a deeper, colder part, felt something else. Instinct. Fear. Why were the other aliens so afraid of her? The announcer's voice echoed across the hall, calling for him to make his choice. Elias took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I choose this one," he said, pointing directly at Viren. A wave of shock went through the crowd. The core let out a low hiss. The Rin clicked rapidly as if warning each other. Even the glowing Thal turned their heads in surprise. "You? Choose her?" the alien warden asked, almost disbelieving. "Yes," Elias replied firmly. "Release her to my custody." The energy field dropped. Vern stood slowly, her movements smooth despite her frail frame. She did not speak, but her thin mouth curled slightly upward. Not quite a smile, not quite a sneer. As she stepped out of the cage, the other prisoners instinctively backed away, giving her space. For the first time that day, Elias felt a chill creep up his spine. Rhea leaned close and whispered, "Captain, are you sure about this? She doesn't look like she can even stand a strong wind, let alone be useful." Elias didn't take his eyes off Vern. "I'm sure," he said quietly. "Bring her aboard the Resolute. Set up a secured cabin." Rhea hesitated but obeyed. As the crew escorted Viren away, Elias remained standing on the platform, feeling the weight of many eyes on him. Not just his crew, but the defeated aliens as well. Their faces were not angry as he had expected. They were pale, uneasy. Elias knew then that he had not chosen out of pity. He had chosen out of fear. Fear of what she was. Fear of what she could do if left in someone else's hands. Whatever Vern truly was, he would rather have her where he could watch her. The arena lights dimmed, signaling the end of the ceremony. But Elias could not shake the feeling that something had just begun, something far more dangerous than the war they had just fought. The Resolute slipped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the arena's system behind. For most of the crew, the victory celebration had just begun. The halls were filled with laughter and relief. Humanity had finally earned respect among the stars. But Captain Elias Ward could not enjoy the celebration. His thoughts kept going back to the alien he had chosen, Vern. She had been given a small, secured cabin on the lower deck. The cabin was plain, with only a bed, a table, and a single light. 2 guards stood outside the door at all times. Yet despite these precautions, Elias could not shake the feeling that she was not a prisoner. It felt more like she was the one allowing them to keep her there. When Elias visited her cabin for the first time, Vern was sitting perfectly still on the bed, her long fingers folded together. She lifted her head when he entered, her strange eyes reflecting the dim light. "You are my prize," Elias said calmly. "But you are also my responsibility. If you try to harm my crew, I will have no choice but to stop you." Vern tilted her head slightly as though amused. "You fear me," she said softly. Her voice was quiet, smooth, and strange, as if many whispers were speaking at once. "I fear what I don't understand," Elias admitted. "That is wise," she replied. And then she said no more. Days passed, and strange things began happening on the Resolute. At first, they were small glitches, doors opening on their own, lights flickering in empty corridors. Then the problems grew worse. Engine readings suddenly spiked for no reason, navigation logs changed themselves, and communication signals were briefly scrambled. The engineering team worked day and night, but they could not find the source of the malfunctions. Everything would return to normal after a few seconds, as if nothing had happened. The crew grew uneasy. Some began to whisper that Vern was cursed, that she had brought bad luck aboard. Lieutenant Rhea reported the situation to Elias. "Captain, this can't just be random malfunctions. It feels coordinated. Every failure is timed so that it almost causes disaster, but not quite." Elias listened in silence. He already suspected the truth. That night he went to Vern's cabin alone. The guards hesitated to open the door, but he gave a firm order. Vern was awake, sitting in the same position as before. "You're doing this," Elias said quietly. Her thin mouth curled upward again. "Doing what?" "The systems. The glitches. The failures. You're controlling my ship." Vern's head tilted again, and for a moment, Elias thought he saw something in her eyes. A faint glow, like distant stars. "Your machines speak loudly," she said softly. "It is easy to make them sing." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "Why?" "To remind you," she replied. "I am not a prize to be owned. I am a choice you made, a choice you do not yet understand." Elias stepped closer. "What are you?" Varen was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "We are called minds that break stars. My kind does not fight wars with soldiers and guns. We do not need to. We turn your own creations against you until your people destroy themselves. That is why the others fear us." Elias swallowed hard. "Why were you captured?" Her faint smile faded. "Because I wanted to be." That answer chilled him more than anything else she had said. The next day the crew grew restless. Rhea confronted Elias in the command center. "Captain, the men are nervous. They think she's dangerous, and honestly I agree. Maybe we should put her in stasis until we reach home." Elias shook his head. "No, if she wanted to hurt us, we'd already be dead. The systems would have failed completely, not just glitched." Rhea frowned. "Then why is she doing it?" "She's sending a message," Elias said grimly. "And I think we need to listen before it's too late." He glanced at the ship's status display. Every light showed green, systems normal. But Elias felt no relief. For the first time since leaving the arena, he realized something. Vern was not their prisoner. The Resolute was hers. That night, Elias returned to Vern's cabin once more. "You said you wanted to be captured," he said. "Why?" Vern's strange smile returned. "Because you humans are loud, reckless, brave. I wanted to see if you were worth saving." Elias stood there, feeling the weight of her words. "Saving from what?" he asked, Vern's glowing eyes locked on his. "From us." Captain Elias Ward barely slept that night. Vern's last words kept repeating in his mind. "I wanted to see if you were worth saving. From us." He sat in the command chair on the bridge long after most of the crew had gone to rest. The stars outside stretched like silver lines as the Resolute remained in faster-than-light travel. But Elias's thoughts were on something much darker. By morning he had made up his mind. He needed answers. He went back to Vierne's cabin, this time bringing 2 security officers and Lieutenant Rhea. The guard stayed at the door while Elias stepped inside. Vierne was waiting. She was always waiting, as though she already knew he would come. "You have been aboard my ship for a week," Elias said, keeping his voice steady. "You have disrupted my systems, frightened my crew, and told me that your kind destroys entire civilizations. If you expect me to keep you alive, you will explain what you mean." Vierne's glowing eyes studied him for a moment. Then she slowly unfolded her long fingers. "You humans are loud," she said softly. "You build things quickly, ships, weapons, dreams. But you build them without listening to the stars first. You never ask if the galaxy will allow you to keep them." Elias frowned. "And your kind decides who gets to keep their dreams?" "We do not decide," Vierne whispered. "We maintain balance. When a species grows too fast, too dangerous, we stop them before they bring war to every corner of the stars." Rhea stepped forward, anger flashing in her eyes. "You're saying you destroy entire races just because you think they might become dangerous?" Vierne turned her head toward Rhea, and for the first time her faint smile faded. "Not think, no, my kind does not guess. We see the future of your machines, your choices, your weapons. We know which paths lead to fire and which lead to silence." Her voice became colder. "Your species is standing on the edge of fire." The room was silent for several seconds. Elias felt his throat tighten. "So you are here to stop us," he said finally. Vierne's strange half-smile returned. "I am here to see if you are worth not stopping." Before Elias could reply, the ship's alarm suddenly blared. "Captain to the bridge." A voice shouted over the comms. Elias rushed out of the cabin with Rhea close behind. When they reached the bridge, the status screens were flashing red. "What's happening?" Elias demanded. "Navigation just reset itself," the helmsman shouted. "We've been pulled out of faster than light." And the communication officer turned, her face pale. "Sir, we're receiving a signal. Unknown origin. It's not on any standard frequency." Elias' heart pounded. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled and a sound filled the air. Not words, but a chorus of faint, overlapping whispers. It was almost like a song, soft and eerie. Vierne's voice came from behind them. She had followed Elias onto the bridge without anyone noticing. "They have found me," she said calmly. Everyone turned. "Who?" Elias asked. "My kind," she said. "The signal is not a message. It is a warning. They are waking." The whispers grew louder, and several screens on the bridge flickered, showing strange symbols that no one could understand. Rhea grabbed Elias's arm. "Captain, if this is her people, we need to dump her in the nearest escape pod and get out of here before they find us." Elias shook his head. "No, if they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. This is something else." He turned back to Vierne. "What do they want?" "They want me back," Vierne said. "But they are watching to see what you do. Every choice you make right now will tell them what kind of species you are." Elias felt the weight of her words. If he gave her up, maybe her people would let humanity live. But if they saw humans as weak, as fearful, would that only make them more likely to erase them? The whispers suddenly stopped. The screens cleared, leaving the bridge in silence. Elias turned to the crew. "Maintain position. I want all systems on manual control. No automated responses." Then he faced Vierne. "If you want to see if we're worth saving, then you'll start talking. Tell me what your kind fears, what they respect, what will make them leave Earth alone." Vierne's glowing eyes seemed to brighten, just slightly. "You speak like someone who does not kneel," she said softly. "Good. Perhaps there is hope for you yet." Elias did not relax. He knew that whatever came next would decide the fate of his people. The Resolute drifted in deep space, quiet and tense. Days had passed since the strange signal and the whispers that had haunted the ship's bridge. Captain Elias Ward could feel the unease growing among his crew. Reports began to arrive from human space. Outposts near the edges of explored territory had gone silent. No distress calls, no transmissions, just nothing. It was as though life had been erased in seconds. Lieutenant Rhea handed Elias a datapad. "That's the 5th outpost this week," she said grimly. "No signs of battle. No damage to their systems, they just stopped." Elias felt a chill spread through his chest. He turned to Vierne, who stood quietly near the corner of the bridge. She had been allowed to move freely now, though 2 guards always shadowed her. "You know what this is," Elias said. Vierne nodded slowly. "It is the first stage. My kind does not strike all at once. We test. We take pieces of your world and watch how you respond. If you panic, you will destroy yourselves faster than we ever could. Rhea's fists clenched. So they're doing this because of you? Because we took you as a prize? Vern's head tilted. Because I allowed you to. This was always going to happen. My capture only made them move sooner. The words hit Elias like a blow. So this war was unavoidable? Vern's strange smile returned, faint, sad, almost pitying. Not war, cleansing. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stared at her, horror growing in their eyes. Elias forced himself to stand tall. Not while I'm alive, he said firmly. Not while Earth still fights back. Hours later, Elias met with his senior officers in the strategy room. The mood was heavy. Our choices are limited, Rhea said, pointing to a star map. If more outposts go dark, our trade routes will collapse. Colonies will be cut off. We can't fight an enemy we can't even see. Chief Engineer Harlan spoke next. Captain, we've analyzed the patterns of the outages. They're too precise. It's like someone is flipping a switch. They're not destroying the colonies, they're turning them off. Turning them off? Elias repeated. Harlan nodded. Power, communications, life support. Everything shuts down in perfect order. No chaos, no explosions. It's like the systems obeyed an invisible command. Vern, who had been standing silently in the corner, finally spoke. Because they did obey. My kind speaks to machines the way you speak to each other. Your colonies are not dead, they are... Paused. Elias turned to her. Paused for what? To see what choice you will make, she said simply. Rhea slammed her hand on the table. Captain, this is madness. We can't just wait while they pick off our worlds one by one. We have to strike first. Elias shook his head. Strike what? We don't even know where they are. We'd be firing into the dark. The room fell silent. Finally, Elias turned to Vern. If we wanted to make peace, real peace, what would we have to do? Vern's strange eyes glowed faintly. You would have to prove you can change. Show that you are not a danger to every world you touch. And if we don't? Elias asked. Vern's voice was calm, almost gentle. Then your species will be gone in less than a century. Not through war, not through fire. Just silence. Your ships will stop moving. Your stations will stop breathing. Your people will vanish from the stars as if they were never there. Elias felt the weight of command pressed down harder than ever before. For the first time, he understood that this was not a battle he could win with guns or ships. This was a battle of choices, and humanity had never been good at making careful choices. Later that night, Elias stood alone in the observation deck, watching the endless stars. He could feel Vern's presence behind him before she spoke. You are not like the others, she said quietly. Elias turned to face her. Is that why you came with us? Vern nodded once. I wanted to see if your kind could learn. Most species fight when we test them. They burn everything around them until there is nothing left. You hesitate. You think before you strike. That is rare. Elias crossed his arms. Hesitating won't save Earth. What do you want me to do? Vern stepped closer, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars outside. Not fight us. Not yet. Learn, change, build something we cannot break. Elias stared out the window. A human fleet was out there somewhere, trying to hold the line against an enemy they couldn't even see. His people were looking to him for answers. At last, he nodded. Then teach me, he said quietly. Teach me how to fight a war without firing a shot. Vern's strange smile returned, but this time it almost looked real. Then perhaps there is hope. Elias turned back toward the stars. Hope was good, but hope would not be enough. Humanity had to survive, and he had to make sure they did. The Resolute glided through deep space, its crew tense but alert. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge, staring at the star-filled expanse. Somewhere out there, the alien fleet, Vern's kind, was moving toward humanity. Not with weapons, not with fire, but with something far more dangerous. Vern stood beside him, her crooked frame straightened in a rare moment of attention. Her glowing eyes scanned the systems like she could see every star, every ship, every machine in the galaxy. They are close, she said softly. Do not fear them. Fear is their tool, not their goal. Elias frowned. If fear is all they use, how do we stop them? You learn, Vern replied. You do not fight them as humans fight. You think like we do. Over the next several hours, the bridge became a classroom. Vern instructed the crew on patterns, sequences, and flows of energy that their enemies would try to exploit. She showed them how machines could be shielded, how signals could be hidden, and how networks could resist interference. Slowly, the human crew transformed their ship into something alien and unfamiliar, a vessel that could not be controlled from the outside. For the first time, Elias felt a spark of hope. Then the fleet appeared. At first, they were just points of light on the sensors, but soon the outlines of their ships became visible, sleek, silent, and impossibly advanced. Entire battle formations shimmered in the darkness, moving with a coordination that defied human understanding. The communications officer whispered, "Sir, they're everywhere. Every sensor we have is showing multiple points at once." Vern stepped forward. "Do not panic. Let them reach you," Elias blinked. "Let them reach us? You said they could destroy us in minutes." "They could," Vern admitted. "But now they will see what you have become. They will see that humanity is not weak, that you can adapt. That is how survival works." The enemy fleet advanced closer. The Resolute remained in position, seemingly vulnerable. But Elias knew it was a trap, not for them, but for the fleet that expected easy victory. "Captain," Rhea said nervously, "what's the plan?" Elias looked at Vern. "We show them we are not afraid." Vern's eyes glowed faintly. "More than that. You show them you are unbreakable." As the alien ships closed in, Elias gave orders. Every system on the Resolute was manually controlled, but it moved as if alive. Signals flashed in ways the enemy could not understand. Power grids on the ship pulsed in unpredictable patterns. Every attempt to interfere failed, not because the humans were brilliant engineers, but because Vern had taught them to think like her people. The enemy fleet paused. Confusion spread among their ranks, a hesitation that no human had ever witnessed before. For the first time, Elias realized that fear had shifted. It was now on the side of the fleet that had once terrified all of human space. Vern whispered to him, "They are testing you. Maintain focus. You have already passed their first challenge." Elias gritted his teeth. He could feel the weight of humanity on his shoulders. Every choice, every command, every pulse of energy from the Resolute mattered. One mistake and their entire species could vanish, but for the first time he felt ready. Hours passed. The alien fleet remained nearby, unable to touch the Resolute. Communication attempts failed. Their ship slowed, confused, as though trying to understand a puzzle that had no answer. Finally, Vern spoke again. "It is done. They understand." Elias turned to her. "Understand what?" "That humanity is different. That you can change. That you can survive what my kind cannot break." A subtle calm filled the bridge. The enemy fleet began to retreat, fading into the distance like stars disappearing at dawn. The threat had not ended, but for now the danger was over. The crew erupted into cheers, but Elias stayed silent. He knew this victory was fragile. He knew the galaxy still held dangers they could not yet see. Vern approached him, her crooked smile now almost gentle. "You chose me out of fear," she said softly. "But it was the right choice. Fear is sometimes the best teacher. You have learned well." Elias nodded slowly. "Then what happens now?" "Now," she replied, "you build. You prepare. You become something my kind cannot erase. And perhaps one day your species will not just survive, it will thrive." Elias looked out at the stars again. Humanity had faced an enemy beyond comprehension and survived. And it had done so not with weapons or power, but with courage, patience, and intelligence. For the first time in years, Elias felt hope that was more than just a fragile ember. It was a flame. The Resolute continued its journey home. Humanity was alive. Humanity was learning, and with Vern's guidance it would rise stronger than ever, a species no one could take lightly. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, Vern watched with satisfaction, knowing that the humans she had chosen were worth saving. Not from pity, not from chance, but from the challenge of surviving themselves.